Hey everyone, and welcome to Screaming at the Wind. It's been a while since we've done this. Haven't put up a video in quite a few months. I've been on a little bit of an adventure. Right now I'm in the North Carolina mountains, and a cat is tearing up my leg. Uh, this beautiful little cat that lives up here on the property and has made friends with my little fellow traveler Maybelline. That's my dog. Um, yeah, so we have the same thing as always to discuss, and that is what's really going on here. So let's sit for just a few seconds to kind of get centered, be aware of our surroundings, hear the sounds around us, feel everything with our bodies, see everything in our field of vision. Okay, so we're going to do basically a refresher course on uh, what does non-duality mean? It's fairly simple. Non-dual means not two. And uh, through the gates of the senses, our perceptions, um, it would seem that there are many forms and variations in form in the world. You know, there's plants and animals and people, and there's ideas and thoughts and beliefs. And all those we can say are manifestations of the one, the oneness. And there seems to be a multiplicity of forms. As Lao Tzu would say, the 10,000 things. Um, and our senses fool us. They really do. Um, not just our senses, the forms in the world fool us. You know, parents, teachers, brothers, sisters, friends, our own minds. You know, the creation, the creation of good and evil. Um, and I know many of us out there often think, well, yeah, there's good and evil in the world. There's love and there's hate and there's thriving and then there's uh, rape and murder, and those things are there. Um, the question is, how do we get to a point where we can actually bring some solution to the world? And only in our understanding or our direct perception of the truth, which is oneness, can we really be useful? Can we really be an instrument for peace or for unity or for those things which we would consider to be more positive? Um, and that's done on a seemingly individual basis. You know, there's a lot of ideas out there that by believing this, I'm going to get somewhere, or by acting this way or doing that, I'm going to get somewhere. And we could say that the interchange between ideas and actions does get us somewhere if we wholeheartedly and whole-mindedly seek and are honest with ourselves. We can get somewhere. Now, that somewhere is not where we think we're going to get uh, from the seemingly separate state where it would appear that I, Jason Long, am this being trapped inside this physical form, having to compete and survive in this infinite universe that my perceptions show me, right? that would be the bound up, tethered, egoic, illusionary state of being that uh, I, for lack of a better word, uh, was in for a long time. And I think a lot of us can see that, and a lot of us can't. Uh, uh, but just a healthy reminder, you are the one. And coming to understand that is the way out of suffering, you know. And not intellectually understand, but to perceive the underlying truth of reality. And it's so important, I think, if you don't like suffering, if you don't like that slow feeling of like your soul dying inside of you, then it's important. It's important to really question what's going on here. Really question the beliefs and ideas and the knowledge that we've been taught by the world. Even question what I say. You know, don't just blindly reject or blindly accept things that you're told or shown. You know, only the truth will set us free. Only the truth will set you free. Not my truth, not a set of moral or ethical actions, though focusing on doing good and being of service to ourselves and those around us will get us to a better state of perception if we wholeheartedly throw ourselves into it. Um, but the ego is a tricky thing. The mind-body mechanism, the thought-feeling mechanism, is a very, very tricky thing. And the funny thing is I get this odd sense that you designed it so that you could uh, remember over time uh, who you are, what you are, where you are. And that's only if you want to. You know. Hmm. And our minds go, but what about love? And what about, you know, changing the world and saving the world? And what about, you know, making the world a better place? Well, let's look at the world we're in now. How's it doing? You know, all these people throughout history have done their best to make the world a better place. Now, if you look at people who we could consider may or may not have attained uh, non-duality or enlightenment or awakening, um, they really didn't have a lot of material possessions. They didn't go and invent some new fancy invention to save humanity or the planet. They basically got rid of all their possessions except what was needed for their body to survive. And that's not thrive, not abundance, just enough to survive. And what is enough? Enough water, enough food, enough shelter, and clothing is shelter, and then air. And you know the quality of that stuff is seemingly important, depending on how long you want to be here. Uh, and even that, you know, comes into question. Being here, do we have a choice? Hmm. Is free will real? That's a question also. There's a lot of questions we should ask ourselves. You know, when I was entangled in the illusion of separation, uh, I studied lots of ancient texts. I read the snot out of those texts. I read them over and over again. Or I would read verses and be like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? You know, or I would go sit and listen to some teacher or some guru, or I would go do some rituals, and yet the suffering remained. And what is suffering? Separation. Separation from our true nature. And what is our true nature? Well, I could describe it, but it's a lot easier just to figure out what it is and experience it because you are it. You are your true nature. There's just confusion and some, we could say some blindness. But no, I'm not blind. I see perfectly well. Well, once again, I see what my thought, feeling, mind body mechanism tells me to see. And then at some point, we've got to figure out a way out of that karmic cycle of running after the good and running away from the bad, and being present here in the moment and experiencing this life directly in this moment, which is very difficult when you live in a world that constantly says, no, you got to plan for the future. Don't dwell on the past. But most of us spend a lot of time dwelling in the past and dwelling on the future. And the fact is, neither has ever existed. And yet they do exist. But they don't exist in the sense that the only time that ever exists is right now. And you can argue that until you die, but the only time that ever exists is right now. You know. So we have to question things. We have to go deep. And if I settle, well, that's my loss. You know. If I go to some really religious affiliation or dwelling and I just accept the beliefs of the people there and I don't question everything, then I could be being led down the wrong road, straight to hell, some would say. And it's easy to miss the right path. It's easy to be led down the path that's more comfortable, that feels more safe, and that's the ego's way of making it through this world. The what we would call the ego or the mind body mechanism is simply a mechanism of survival, and it forms a persona based on the information that comes through the five senses. And once this information comes through the five senses, right, then what you are simply watches or observes through this information, and the mind body, this little kitty's playing with us over here, the mind body mechanism reacts. So, we like to call what happens between these ears thinking, and I would question that too. Is that you in there thinking? You ever have like a really busy thing or a very important thing that you've got to do the next day, and you lay down to go to sleep, and you want to go to sleep real bad in here, but this little thing in your head just keeps going, just thinking, 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 and you can't shut it up. And then you end up only getting like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. And so you feel like crap for that very important thing that you got to go do. Well, if that was you in there doing all that thinking, well, wouldn't you be able to stop it? If you didn't want to think, shouldn't it stop thinking? Am I wrong in this? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. Sometimes I just get lost in the sounds around me. Right now we're in the mountains of North Carolina. It's gorgeous up here. And there's lots of crickets and bullfrogs and cicadas. And they sing this beautiful music. The air is a little cool. The knee on this body is itching because the cat used my leg to sharpen his claws a minute ago. Uh, so much going on in this moment. So much. You know, for the first 33 years of my life in this form, I won't say the whole 33 years. I think when I was an infant and up to a certain age, I was a happy little camper. And then it got really weird, for a while. And my mind was always kind of concerned about tomorrow or what I did wrong yesterday. And I never really seemed to get anywhere. I mean, I did a lot of things. you know, as Jason. I did gold prospecting. I worked at car washes, restaurants. I built houses. I've done electrical work, plumbing work, carpentry work, brick work, block work, foundation work, welding. Um, I've worked in films as an actor, writer, director, producer. Uh, I've been a maintenance man of an apartment complex. I mean, I've had lots of jobs. The whole time, though, I was more concerned about what in the holy hell is going on here. Because I'm hearing all this information, and this doesn't feel aligned with all this stuff I'm hearing. In fact, this thing here is so upset all the time. There's no comfort here. There's just this roller coaster all the time. There's no peace. And there's no peace here. What's going on? Why is it this way? It's because I was looking wrong. Because I had something in my eyes and I couldn't get it out. I didn't even know it was there. Is it there anymore? Well, you'd have to be looking through these eyes to know. Which you are, technically. Because there's only one. There's only you. Next time you look into your supposed neighbor's eyes, or your friend's eyes, or your mother's eyes, or your brother's eyes, or your boss's eyes, or your fellow employee's eyes, just remember that's you looking back. That's you looking back through those eyes, or your doggy's eyes, or your kitty's eyes. That's you looking back. And you don't have to believe me, but I would suggest you look really hard because once you find you, you can never lose you again. Once you find the truth, your torment will fall away. Your depression, your sadness, your worry, your anxiety, your frustrations, and your desires and fears too. New things come along. It gets a little different. You don't ride the ride the same way. And there's really two ways to ride a roller coaster. You can hold on for dear life, scared to death, or you can just throw your hands up in the air and go, wee! Because that's what life is. It's a roller coaster, and it's going where it's going. And there's a lot of parts and pieces involved, seemingly. And to think I have some power of control as an individual, well, not so much. But there's those of us who want to be in power, and we do our best to manipulate and control the rest of us. I'm not going to get into that too much. Just question everything. Heard that when I was a young boy. Question everything. That doesn't mean you have to blindly accept it or blindly reject it, because both of those are forms of ignorance. The two greatest forms of ignorance I would say that there is. To blindly believe or disbelieve something without doing some homework first. And that's a problem today. We sit and have discussions and people just, well, I don't believe that. I believe this. Well, how about we be open-minded and try to come together and see what's really real? Because it's not about belief. Walk outside, look around in your room, point out a belief to me. Because, I had lots of beliefs. Now I don't have many beliefs at all. Because beliefs don't exist. They're all in our heads. No belief is true. What's true? Even the belief that no belief is true is not true. And that's a little confusing. But there is reality. There is truth. And it can be found. I will say, approach everything with a certain degree of criticism. Not so much cynicism, but criticism. Don't take things firsthand, right off the get-go. Sit back and watch. Sit back and really observe. I think for myself in this life over here, one of my favorite things since I was a youngin' was to go sit at coffee shops and just observe. Observe life in all its forms. In a sort of a detached way. Watch the kids and the boys and girls and the women and men. Observe. Just observe. Watch, listen, feel. Don't think too much about it. Or think. Either way, you'll get home. If you really have the desire and the intent, I think a lot of us on the path to the light, to the oneness, we get distracted. And there were some teachers in the past that warned of these distractions. Beware the flowery trappings along the path. We get distracted. We get distracted by baubles, toys, spiritual baubles, rituals, emotional experiences. I mean, those are great. All of those are cool to have. Don't get me wrong. I got some cool crystals, you know. I've had some weird, awesome, magical experiences. And they all happen within the truth. They themselves are not the truth. What is the truth? Is it what they say on the news? Is it what's preached from behind podiums? Is it what I speak to you now? Is this life a hologram? Are we on the Starship Enterprise in the holodeck? That's been going around a lot lately. Holographic universe. Is it spiritual? Is it energy? Who's right? Religion? Science? Both are sets of beliefs. Both are just ways of describing reality. Are they the truth? I'll quote a verse from a book. It says, "We by faith believe that that which is seen is made of things not seen." Now that's from a religious text. And then let's quote science. The world is made up of atoms. Can't see atoms unless you have super powerful microscopes. And now they've got, something, they got this large hadron collider. And now they're breaking it down into smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller parts and pieces, smaller. Well, eventually there's going to be nothing there, which is funny. Funny. Uh, I've been kind of funny for the last little bit. Just throwing a bunch of stuff at you. And understand, I do know what you're going through. I do know how you feel. Life is difficult. And it's hard to believe that others can understand our experience, that they can know what we're going through, because how could a white man know what a black man's going through? Or how could uh, a gay woman know what a straight woman's going through, or vice versa? Well, one of the coolest tricks I learned was to start looking for the similarities instead of the differences. You know, the mind body mechanism wants to be super special, wants to be an individual, and it protects itself because your truth, like your awakening, comes at its expense, and it's going to make you feel hella uncomfortable uh, every time you get close to the truth. But like that song on the radio says, you got to go through hell before you get to heaven. Suffering was my greatest gift. Remembering my death was my second greatest gift. If I'm in suffering, if I don't like what I'm feeling and what's going on in my head, then I'm not looking at things the right way. And believe me, I've been through the darkness, and all that's left now is light everywhere. Does that mean that I've got a cool, super cool life where everything just goes my way as this individual character that I seem to be playing here? No. Good days, bad days, up days, down days. Some days I feel like $1,000,000. Some days I'm physically sick, and I have to feel like that. Some days I'm concerned, and I have to feel like that, or I get to. But I no longer fight what I feel or what I experience. In fact, it becomes more and more awesome each day. Something to be said about acceptance and surrender, or just simply observing life, observing my thoughts, or the thoughts in this head, observing the feelings here. Ooh, this is the kitty. It's got sharp claws. Ooh, kitty butt. There you go. Look at that. You're on TV. Look. Uh, I didn't know this was going to happen. It's great. Uh, so, you know, it's about being present. Observe the thoughts, observe the feelings, observe the circumstances that you're in. Hear the sounds, see the shapes and forms and colors. Feel everything that you're feeling as deeply as you can. Bring awareness when you're in sorrow. Bring awareness to your sorrow. Observe it. When you're in joy, bring awareness to your joy. Observe it. No scratchy. Sharp claws, this one. You gonna try and scratch me again, ain't you? Uh, anyway, guys, I think the kitty is definitely gonna help us in this today's little video. We appreciate you very much. We are glad you are here. You are more than you ever could imagine. And once you stop imagining what you are, you will get to experience how awesome and how much more you actually are. Have a good evening, good day, good night, good morning. We'll talk again soon. Say bye, kitty. Bye. Bye.